Hey, Chandler Bolt here, and joining me today is Dr. Sonia Wright. Dr. Sonia is a board-certified radiologist, a sexual counselor, as well as a certified life coach. She's awesome. She's a student at self-publishing school. We just wrapped up. I know you're at Author Advantage Live. Like, she's just such a fun and amazing person to root for, and has gotten so much results from a PR and speaking perspective, from a growing her business perspective. And so just one of the people that we wanted to highlight and learn from on this podcast, on this show. I'm very excited for this and kind of funny. Well, I'll save the funny story for here in just a little bit, but I'm just super excited. So Dr. Sonia, welcome.
Thank you so much, Chandler. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Hey, so let's kick it off with how did you find self-publishing school, and how did you end up joining self-publishing school, and why did you join us?
Yeah, I was at Hal Elrod's event last year in San Diego, the Best Live Blueprint that he does every year, and you were speaking there, and I never do this, but he was holding this auction where you could pay $500 and have dinner with you. And I'm not the person that does this at all, but something told me that I had to talk to you and I had to have dinner with you. And I'm kind of an introverted person, and having to like put my number up to say that I was going to, have dinner with you, that in itself, but there's something so compelling. Like, I listened to you when you were up on the stage speaking, and I was like, I need to talk to this guy. I just need to do it. So yes. It's
so funny. It's getting auctioned off is a funny experience. and then dinner and then it's just so funny because I think you knew the backstory too, of like, they kind of surprised me with it, and my girlfriend and I were like literally leaving the speech and had like this snowboarding getaway for the weekend, and it's like, all right, cool, as soon as this talk's done, like, we gotta go, and they're like, auction off Chandler for dinner. It was fun, but I think it's just such a fun, like, I was just interviewing Hal Elrod earlier today. He's got the Miracle Morning movie coming out. Check it out, guys, if you haven't already. It's going to be amazing. But so I just think that's just such a fun jumping off point. And I was telling him, like, all of our best people come from Hal Elrod's world, pretty much. It's like the people that come from that world are just amazing. So walk me through though. So, I was obviously at the conference talking about books and how to use a book to grow your business. And then, you said, hey, all right, I think in the beginning it was, all right, let's do the book stuff together. And then it was, all right, let's grow the business. And so I know there's probably a lot of people out there that we have publicity training and PR and speaking and, growing a business stuff. And then we have book stuff. And most people just know us for the book stuff. And then you also think about the chicken versus the egg. Like, do I do the book first? Do I do the business stuff? So what made you say, hey, I'm in, but then also like, okay, I'm in, and then I'm going to do the business stuff first though, and then I'm going to circle back to the book?
Yeah, my original plan, I was all in on writing the book, and I had this plan. I was going to go away for the weekend to Las Vegas. I'm not sure why I would think I'm going to write a book in Las Vegas, but I thought that would be like write all day and party all night. I'm not sure what my plan was, but for some reason I thought that was going to be my plan. And then January came and things are kind of crazy with my business and with work and everything like that. So I did not get to write the book. And just about that time, like in February, then you had a masterclass on your PR and speaking. And I thought, you know what, this is another one of my goals this year, was to write the book, but also to get more speaking engagements. And I wanted to know how to get on more podcasts, how to use that part to get my business out there. And originally I was going to use the book in order to like advertise my business and get that out there. But I thought, well, this is another way that I can tap into. And so I actually ended up being in your beta group for your PR and speaking course, which was the best decision that I made all year. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And why is that? And I guess more importantly and probably more helpful for everyone is like, why was that the best decision? But what, like, okay, what was your goal with that? What are some of the results that you've seen? What were some things that you learned in the process?
Yeah. So originally my goal was just to learn how to speak, how to do a webinar or a master class, how to get out there and do like the public relations side of things to get my name out there. So that's what I was originally planning on doing with it. And I was starting to grow my business by speaking on stages, and I thought that would be a good way. And then COVID hit, and I was so lucky to be in the middle of that course because you were teaching us how to do the virtual stages, right? So I was getting exactly what I needed at the exact time. And if I didn't have your course, I'm not quite sure what I would have done, because originally I was planning on getting on live stages and doing it that way and then selling the book originally. But because the PR and speaking could also focus on the virtual stuff, that was amazing. And then I went from there on to doing some other stuff that you also offer as well. And that was
Cool.
Course building.
Yep. So let's unpack the PR piece. So
Yeah.
You joined the beta group, and then the goal was to get on virtual stages.
Yes.
What did that process look like? I mean, I think I remember like you were a quick implementer. So walk people through, like, how did you get clear on, hey, this is what I'm talking about. These are the types of opportunities I want. And then how did you get your first couple of PR and publicity wins? What did that look like?
Yeah, well, I think because I was in the course, and your course really just step by step tells us exactly what we need to do. And so I basically just followed everything that Sloan, who was the coach doing the course, whatever she said to do, I just did it, right? So it said to like reach out to people on podcasts and then reach out to your network. And so I worked the people that I knew in my network, and I got on Facebook Lives. And then I started going from there and reaching out to different podcasts. And then after that, I started reaching out by this time, people were starting to switch over from their conferences they were going to have on live stages to virtual stages. So then I started reaching out to people for the virtual stage as well for these different conferences. And I just kept doing as much. I said that I was going to, work as hard as I could and just do everything that you told us to do.
Awesome. And what, so you start getting on podcasts, you start getting on Facebook Lives. What was your thought? Like, how did you figure out, okay, these are the types of podcasts that I want to be on? How did you see like, oh, this is going to tie into my business and this is going to grow the business? Like, how did that work? And yeah, how did kind of that whole process work?
Well, you also helped us in the PR and speaking course. You helped us figure out our niche, which I knew the niche, but really helped me hone in on the type of people, the person that was going to listen to my message and make sure that I directed the message that way. So because I knew who I was going to be, my avatar, who I was going to be focusing in on, then I made sure that I was focusing in on podcasts and Facebook Live groups and stuff who could reach my avatar. And that's kind of how I figured out how to go there.
I see. So get clear on that. You got clear on the avatar first.
Yeah.
Then it's, okay, what are the types of publicity opportunities and platforms or media that's speaking to this avatar? And
Exactly.
now let me use, as we would call advocates, to reach out and get in front of those folks. Did you focus predominantly on podcasts? I think I remember it's like you also had a virtual summit. There was like a radio show. There was
I went
you
everywhere.
had all kinds of different,
Yeah. So I just I used my network, and a lot of my network was Facebook Lives. And then I kind of grew it from there and started sending out emails and just checking in with people I knew. And then I think people started seeing me on Facebook Lives and on podcasts. And so then I started getting people inviting me to different podcasts. And then I just did the virtual summit wherever I could. I just came from every angle that I could think of to do this.
And what worked best from a revenue perspective, or from like bringing in business? Was it the podcast? Was it the Facebook Lives, the virtual summits, the radio, something different?
Yeah, it actually started out as the Facebook Lives because I could have direct interaction with the people and I knew them and they could connect with me. I was in the process of really growing my business at the same time, right? So I had a Facebook page and I had a website, but the website really wasn't built out. I ended up building out the website again by May. And I took the course of PR and speaking from March through May. So because I didn't have the website up and running at 100%, it was more like the Facebook Lives. But then the website started kicking in, and then I would get more people contacting me through podcasts into the website, and then going from there. So it was just kind of step by step.
Cool. And so it's okay. Let's build momentum. Let's build awareness. Let's build, and I love that. This is one of the things I love about your story is it was just implement. What's the exact next thing? Okay, let me implement that. And not because I think so many people in this phase, it's, oh, hold up, I don't have a website. Oh, yeah, I don't have a website, so I can't get on podcasts. I can't do this. I'm going to build my website and then I'll start doing this. But I love that it's you. I mean, it's the proverbial jump off the cliff and build the airplane on the way down. It's just like, just implement. and then I'm sure that, like, did you get people reaching out to you before you had a website, or like, what did that look like for people who wanted to learn more before?
Yeah, if they
you had a
wanted to
website?
learn more about me, they would reach out to me on Facebook, direct messenger. And then the
Yeah.
website came up, and when I was on Facebook and starting to go on podcasts, then I would give out my email so people would contact me through the email. And then it was nice when I had the website, and it kind of all came together with that. So that was pretty helpful. But what else was extremely helpful was in the PR and speaking course, you helped us make a speaker's kit. And that was phenomenal. So it made me kind of legitimize me, right? So like, as it has all the information right there.
Right.
And then, so if anybody wanted to know about me and know if it would be a good fit for a podcast or Facebook Live or whatever, I could just send out my speaker's kit. And that, I really think that made a big difference as well.
That's so great. And so what, refresh my memory, like throughout this process, do you have I think you already had a business, but it wasn't online, right? And so, or what were you kind of doing?
It was kind of like a jobby. It wasn't, it was just like a little something. I had made a little bit of money the year before, and I wanted to figure out how to build it up and what to do to really make this a real business, right? And so the PR and speaking just helped so much to elevate it to that level. And then they had a challenge within the PR and speaking, and I was determined that I was going to win one of the spots so that I could talk to you about what should I do next, to build my business. And so I ended up getting on that call with you, and I was saying, okay, I'm doing this. I'm reaching out to podcasts and Facebook Lives, and I'm starting to get some people contacting. What's the next step that I should do? And like I said, I'm starting to build a course, but I don't have it already built yet, but this is where I'm thinking of going with this. And then you're like, sell the course. And I'm like, but it's not built yet. It's halfway through. You're like, sell it now, do a pre-launch.
Yeah. And start monetizing, but sell, then build.
Yes.
So, hey, let's get into the monetization course thing in just a second. I want to back up just a little bit. So, so you said, I love that term. I've never heard that, like a jobby. Were you all in on this? Like, did you have a day job? Was this on the side? Like, what did that kind of
definitely on the side. It was like a side gig. I'm a radiologist. I'm a X-ray doctor, right? So that's what my main thing was. But I wanted to grow this business. I wanted to be a coach. And so I was just trying to figure out how do I shift this and really focus on this to grow this business while I'm still doing my regular day job.
Awesome. Now, so I want to talk about, we'll transition into kind of, okay, how do you monetize now? But before that, I mean, like you've got a topic and a niche that I think can be taboo. It's like a sexual counselor. It's like, I think sometimes people hear that and they're like, oh my gosh, we're talking about sex. Like, this is crazy. And so I'd love for you to speak to that. Like, so if you have for others who might have a taboo topic, like, how do you handle that? How do you work with that? How do you not make it weird? Like, do you lean into it? Do you kind of shy away from it? Like, just how do you navigate that?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, because I'm a sexual counselor and a life coach, right? And I put that together to become a sex coach. Well, sex coach, it could be anything, right? So you get, if you were to like Google on or go on Facebook and type in sex coach, you will get all type of people. Some people will be in lingerie and talking and do their face, so there's all different people that go under the sex coach. But I knew what I wanted and where I wanted to come from and the perspective that I wanted to come from. And I knew that I wanted it to be a fun perspective, but still professional. And so I wanted to focus on building bring up who I am and the know, like, and trust factor, and to make it where it doesn't feel weird or embarrassing or something, but a person that could naturally just talk to me about whatever their concerns were. So that's like the perspective that I wanted to come from. And like I needed to do advertising, and I had to do Facebook Lives and things like that. And you have to figure out how to say things in a certain way, which is not going to, be too provocative or get you banned from like doing your advertising. Yes.
And get flagged by the algorithm or something like that. Do you ever get weird like responses when you're outreaching, whether it's on the PR side of things, or like, is that a weird thing that happens and you just shrug it off? Is it people get it and it's actually like it's taboo on the surface, but when you reach out, they're actually like, oh yes, this is something that my audience would be interested in?
Yeah, so definitely there's a lot of, I'm the midlife sex coach for women, right? So I focus on midlife and I focus on women, and my focus are women from like about 40 to 50, but I end up encompassing from about 35 to 55, 60 in terms of the women that are interested in what my message is. And so I have a number of people that are focused on midlife that will reach out to me, and then a number of people that are focused on women's empowerment that will reach out to me as well, or that I will reach out to. So that's kind of along the lines that it goes quite a bit. And they're just happy to have somebody to be able to talk to about this, but that's not in kind of a weird way of doing it.
For sure. That's so smart. And so let's talk about that for a second. I mean, the midlife sex coach for women, like that's so specific. And I think so often, whether we're coaching people from a publicity side of things or book side of things, it's like they just cast this wide net and it's like how to live an amazing life and fulfill your dreams and all this, like, and if it's for everyone, it's for no one. Right. So how did you land on that? How did you get so specific? And how have you seen like the benefits of that, of just being super specific about exactly who you help and kind of exactly who you talk to?
Yeah, I think in terms of the midlife, I know what it's like to be a midlife because I'm in the middle of it, right? So I know you're juggling a job, raising kids, you might be empty nesters, but so much has gotten in the way that you haven't had a chance to look at your sexual intimacy, and that usually goes by the wayside, or it can go by the wayside. And then you get to this point in your life, in your midlife, where you're figuring out how you want the rest of your life to go. And then you're like, hey, I forgot about this and I'd really like to incorporate it back into my life. So I knew that that was like a focal issue or pain point that my avatar, or the women that I work with, were dealing with. So that was like an area that I definitely wanted to focus in on with them. So that was kind of like an important factor for me.
And so really focus on who can you help?
Yes.
And in some cases that also overlaps with who can you relate to?
Yes.
And speak from personal experience, which I think is so great. And so guys, if you're listening, watching, like, get more specific, get specific with your avatar. And I love what you said, and just backtracking a little bit. And we talk about the 4 P's of a high converting offer, or a book that sells well, is person, pain, promise, prize, right? So get very clear on the person that you're speaking to. What's the pain that they have? And then what's the promise that you make them? And then the price that they're willing to pay, right? And so I think by getting so clear on the person, the pain as well as a part of that. And so doing that, I love what you said, is there the midlife people reach out to you, but also the women's empowerment groups reach out to you. It's like, and because it's so clear, right? And so it's kind of, we talked about this as part of Author Advantage Live and the 6-Figure Author Challenge and all that, of with my brother and his wife with Bolt Farm Treehouses, is like, oh, who's going to come to Bolt Farm Treehouse? It's going to be, the empty nester. It's going to be the tired parent, or it's going to be the honeymooner, right? And so like so you have these avatars, and you can create avatars and pockets for those avatars, and then reach audiences or that makes sense. So I just think that's great. And I love that in that beta group, we had you as a sex coach, and then we had a Christian girl in a yoga world. And just like, I think 2 great examples of like, I want to say that they're opposite. They're just very different. Right. And I think she feels taboo of like, oh, Christian girl in a yoga world, and the same way that you feel taboo. And so any like tips, just final tips, and I'd love to move into business growth and course stuff and all that, but like any other tips for people who say, hey, I'm speaking on a taboo topic, like how do I navigate that well or be confident in that and kind of all that good stuff?
Well, I think I'm a life coach, right? So first you have to be okay with it yourself. You can't go out there and try to sell it to anybody else if you're kind of feeling embarrassed or you don't know what to say, because then they're not part of the promise is you are part of the promise, right? That you're going to help them. So you have to be confident and solid in dealing with this subject matter. So first work on yourself and make sure you have it and that you're solid and confident. And then you go out there and you make sure that you can serve and help them. But first do it from a place of belief and knowing that you are completely committed to doing whatever needs to be done to be of service to the people that you want to help.
That's so great. And I love the emphasis on being of service to the people you want to help, because that's what it's all about. And that's what it comes down to. Right. And so keeping the focus there, that's awesome. So let's transition. So you're getting all this publicity, you get your website up. You're like, okay, how do I monetize this? I want to build this course and sell it. And, so walk me through the transition of how did you go from, all right, I'm, doing radio stuff. I'm doing podcast stuff. I'm doing virtual summit to now I've built a course. It's a course that's selling. Like, what did that transition look like?
Yeah, so it's kind of, I'd say it's like parallel tracks. So there's like the publicity side of things that you do in your business, and then there's the work that you do behind the scenes for your business to grow your business. And originally my focus was on coaching individuals, and that's what my plan was. Then COVID hit. And I had to kind of pivot and I had to go about it a different way because I was doing individual coaching, which was at a higher price point. And so I was like, how can I help more people, but at a different price point that people might be able to, when financially people don't know exactly what's going on, maybe they may not be able to commit to like this hundreds, thousands of dollars, but maybe they could do a couple of thousand. So that's why I decided I would do the group coaching. And so that's where I pivoted there. And then I started building the coursework and then going from there.
Got it. So you started one-on-one and then moved from one-on-one to group.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Okay. And then what did that process look like? I mean, I know we worked together as part of the Course Building for Authors program, and then talked about sell then build. Like, how did you, and because I think once again, it was like, and I really want to unpack this for you. It was like, you were in the beta group for PR and speaking. And it was like first 5 gigs, like 5 publicity opportunities. Like you were one of the fastest to get there, I think in a month or maybe even less. Right. And then moving to Course Building for Authors, same thing. Like we took a class of students, I think, through that. And it was, I want to say it was like 47 grand in 45 days or 60 days or something like that. How did you get customers? What did you do? Like, how did you get people in your ecosystem? Like, what did that whole process look like?
Yeah.
Going from, okay, now I'm launching this and I've got customers.
Right. So I was like, okay, I'm building this course. I don't exactly know what to do with it. I ended up talking to you. You said, start selling it right now. So I was like, okay, let me start selling it right now. I'm like, wait, I don't have a sales page and I don't really have a way to capture money. So then over the weekend, I made a ClickFunnels page. I knew nothing about it. And then over the weekend, I learned it really quickly and built something, that I could put people to, like funnel people into this, right? So that's what I had. And that was really helpful too, because I would talk to people, they would know who I am. And then there was a sales page that they could go to, which would reinforce everything that I had already told them and help them make that decision. So that's what I did. And I focused on my beta group, and my goal was to get 10 in the beta group. And I think in like 2.5 weeks, I had made $10,000. So I had proof that I could do this. And so then I focused on continuing to build out the course while I had the people in there and asked them if this was like meeting their needs and how I should tweak it. So I had that going on. I was still continuing to do the PR and speaking and getting out there, but now I had a course that I was talking out as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the 2 sides of it.
Nice. And so you started getting paying customers, and then now you have a thing that you can sell, and then still getting PR publicity. So it's like, okay, now when you go on those, get those opportunities, you can use that to dovetail directly into the group coaching program.
Exactly. Yeah.
Got it. And so how did you get those first 10 paying customers? I mean, your first 10K within 2.5 weeks. Like, what did that look like? Where did those people come from?
They came from everywhere. Like I went on Facebook Lives, I went on podcasts, I was selling, I went into friends groups, and I have my own Facebook page. So I started doing that as well. And then with the PR and speaking, you guys taught me a webinar. So I started using the webinar as well. And so I was just trying to get people in from anywhere that I could. I was reaching out to people. I was sending emails to people. I was starting to grow my email list. This is when my email list started growing as well. So so I was doing it from every angle, and I got the 10 and I was like, okay, here we go. And so I took the group through, I think I went through 10 and a half out of my 12 weeks before I did a real full launch.
I
Then
see.
that's what I did. Yeah. In July, I
Yeah.
did a full launch.
And so what did what did that look like? So you're going on podcasts, you're going Facebook Lives and groups and all that. And was it check out the sales page? Was it book a call with you? Like, how did they go from I'm interested to I'm a paying customer?
Yeah, most of them ended up doing, well, the ones that are in my PR, the original beta group, a lot of them had, between podcasts and Facebook Lives, they had already seen me a number of times. So they were at this position where they're like, okay, I trust her, I know her.
Yeah.
So let me reach out to her and let me buy this, and then let me get into the course. So that was like that group. The rest of them I did, and when I did my big launch, I was working in the day or with my radiology, and then in the evening I was doing 4 and 5 consults a day. Like I was just like knocking it out as fast as I could. I think by the end of it, I couldn't really talk anymore.
That is wild. So walk us through that. I mean, that's wild. So, all right, you got your first 10 customers in 2.5 weeks, and you go through, and so it's the exact process we teach, right? It's sell, then build. So you've got paying customers, and you're delivering the live group coaching experience over the course of 10.5 weeks, or over the course of 12 weeks. But then at the 10.5 week mark, you said, all right, I feel like this is ready to more evergreen or to sell the next batch. So what'd you do then? And you talk about the big launch, like, what did you do to launch? And I mean, we just kind of fast forwarded to the end real quick, which is you're working a full-time day job, and then as a radiologist, and then 4 and 5 calls every evening. Yeah. How did you even get those calls booked, and what did that launch look like?
Yeah, so then I had a scheduler, like an Acuity, and then I would, I had them on the webinar. I was doing my Facebook Lives as well, any way that I could get them. And I started a Facebook ads as well. And so people started knowing who I was. And then, okay, so this is the incredible part of PR and speaking. So at the end of PR and speaking, we have to do our Nifty 50, right? Which is our incredible list of people, the stages that we want to get on our podcast or whatever. So I made this list, and I did this at the end of May. And I had one podcast that was at my top podcast. You're actually on that list too, so let me celebrate that too. But I had one that was at a specific niche that I knew would really make a difference. And I actually put it on my list and gave myself like 10 years, I think, to get on this podcast. I remember thinking, I'm going to just put it there, just because Chandler said, make your 50 and put your top one, just put it out there. Because if you don't put it down, you'll never get there, right? So I put it on, and these circumstances happened that I did that list on May 29th, and on June 29th, I was on her podcast. And that was like, I thought it was going to take me 10 years. It took a month, and I was on her podcast. And so that really helped blow up a lot of the work that I was doing for just the PR and speaking, because she had so many followers that then people really got a sense of who I was. And then my consultations really started booking up as well.
Oh, that's cool. And so walk us through that, like dream podcast. You said, hey, within the next 10 years, I want to get on this. You got on it in a month. How'd you do it?
Well, it was a chance thing where I ended up being in a webinar, the same webinar that she was in, or a Zoom meeting that she was in. And I ended up introducing myself. And then I ended up talking about my course that I had built out. And so I basically, all the things that happened in PRNS led up to this meeting, right? And I was ready for it, because the opportunity, it's like you have to be prepared for it. It's luck, but preparation, right?
Yes.
So I had all those things ready to go. And I was like, I have a course, I've done this, this is the person that I speak to. And it just so happened that aligned with what her group was as well. And so then she's like, oh, why don't you come on my podcast? And I was like, what? But of course I was like, yes, that would be a good idea. But inside I'm like,
good. Yeah, we could probably book that. Let me check my schedule. That's great. That's awesome. I love the Les Brown, right? Like he says, one of my favorite Les Brown quotes, it's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared.
Exactly.
Right. And so being prepared for that opportunity, I mean, it's just a great example from hopefully in 10 years to 30 days from now. And luck is where preparedness meets opportunity, right? So
exactly.
Just such a great example. So, all right. So you got on that podcast. It sounds like that really helped with booking out consults, and then the consults helped with kind of your first bigger launch. So what, how did you go from podcast to consult? Like, what was your call to action at the end of the podcast, and how did that generate so many consults?
Yeah, so the podcast interview had my website on there, and so most people would go to my website, and I linked my website to my Acuity scheduler. So it said like free consultation, so they could click there and they can talk straight to me. And then my website also has a section on my course, On Your Sexuality Now. And then at the bottom, the call to action is, sign up here and, buy the course. But if you want to talk further, then, there's a consultation as well, just for the people that weren't ready to buy. So between those two ways, they got to me for the consultation.
That's great. And so you're doing 4 to 5 consults a night during that time period. That's wild. How many students did you sign up? What did the revenue look like during that launch? How did that kind of shake out?
So I was working my butt off, right? And I ended up with 70,000 in cash at the end of it. I had 40 students, and then I had another 12 that was in receivables. So I ended up with that launch doing 82K. So that was, and this is why I love you, Chandler, because like my life changed because I listened to what you told me, right?
That is unbelievable. I was just taking that. So you said 70K in cash, 82K in
70 in cash, and another 12, so a total of 82K.
Yeah. Wow. And 40 students.
And 40 students, yeah.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And wow. And so, gosh, this is just such an awesome, awesome success story. So let's kind of fast forward to, okay, so this launch happened, knowing what you know now. And I know, so that was a few months ago. Like, what's been the progress since then? And what's next? Like, where are you putting your focus towards to kind of keep building this?
Yeah. So I learned so much for that launch. And so I'm actually about to start another launch. I have another course that's opening and starting on November 11th. So I'm about to launch again. And so I'm going to do similar to what I did previously, less consultations, because I've been working more on getting my information out there and getting on more. I still continue to get on podcasts, and do that type of work so people know who I am. And so now people are starting to come to me. They know who I am. So I don't have to do as many consultations as I was doing previously. And
nice.
So then I had consistently, like between launches, I've had at least 10K months, just with bringing in people and doing private coaching as well. So I've like had that consistent revenue, and then now I'm kind of revving up for another launch again. And in the meantime, I've grown my list. When I started with the July launch, my list was about 300. Now my list is about, and I'm talking about email list, is about 2,300 now.
Oh, wow. That's unbelievable. You said you started, it was how big, you said?
It was 300. And so I was doing webinars, but I was doing Facebook ads to my freebie. And I was also doing webinars, Facebook ads to my webinars. And so I'm just growing it and just doing every angle that I can work it now. So now this launch will be a little different, right? Because before I wasn't known as much, and I didn't have an email list, but now I have the email list, and I've been nurturing that list and, sending out emails to them periodically. and working on a number of different factors such that now that I've grown my email list, that's going to be a major part of this next launch.
Yeah, for sure. And that'll be a good time to dive back into the PR and speaking material. Go back to the webinar material because you'll relearn, and it's spaced repetition, right? So it's all right, come back to that and then do it again, and your webinar will be even better. It'll convert better, all that. And I don't know if you know this, but that's the same training that we send people internally. So we have people in the SPS team do webinars, and they go through that training to prep for their webinars. So that'll be a good kind of refresher as you roll into the next launch. What would be your tips for folks, like kind of in the home stretch here? So just a couple final questions, but tips for folks. I mean, as someone who's just implemented so well, any parting pieces of advice for whether they're going through whether they're listening to this and then going to implement, or whether they're working with us in one of our programs, like, how do you do it? How do you implement so well, and any tips or lessons learned that would be helpful for others?
You know, I just focused on, I have a goal. This is something I want to accomplish. There's going to be discomfort, and I have to be okay with the discomfort. It's not going to be fun. You know, it is fun. I mean, when I looked at my bank account, that was hella fun, right?
Yeah,
but in between, the discomfort part comes when you're putting yourself out there, when you're saying, you know, hey, can I be on your podcast? And they're like, no, you know,
get lost.
So there's that, right? But then I just kept saying to myself, if they say no, I'm in no worse position than I was before, but they might say yes. And so I have to be okay with trying this. And then, you know, I focus so much on, I say I'm on a mission to end the emotional pain and isolation associated with sexual difficulties for women. So then when I'm at that place where I don't want to put myself out, then I think of like the woman that's out there all alone that needs something. And I'm not there because I'm like too focused on myself, and I don't want to put myself out there. I don't want to hear a no, but she's over there crying in pain. And if I would just get over myself, I might actually be able to help her.
That's amazing. That's just, and listening to this, watching this, think about the same, what is the equivalent for you? Right? For me, it's the person who's struggling, that wants to write a book, but doesn't know how, or it's the person that totally got taken advantage of by a publisher because they didn't know about self-publishing school, or it's, you know, and so thinking, you know, when you have that conviction of like, okay, I'm morally obligated to get this in front of those folks because this is going to really help them. And I think it goes from me to we, and like, I can help these people. And it kind of takes the me out of it, which I think is super important to get over that fear and kind of trepidation throughout the journey. So let me ask you this, Sonia. So you've got, I know you mentioned like, hey, in the beginning, it was like a book was going to be the first thing. Now it's okay. We went heavy into the business. That's been a really good choice from a business perspective. And I think you said over the next year, then it's adding the book into that. How do you see the book kind of playing into this, and what's your plan for the book? Kind of when you add it in, and how it's going to help your business.
Yeah, so I'm finishing up my launch this year, and then starting in next year, I see the book helping me on that side. And so the book is probably going to be called Own Your Sexuality Now, and it's going to be the different aspects that I take everybody through in order to get to that place where you're enjoying, you know, the best sex life that you've wanted, right? So that book is going to help so many other women. If they can't come to my program, they can access. If they want to see who I am first, they can start with the book, and then they can go from there. But it's another way for me to reach and make a difference, and to help women and have them come and see what it is that I do as well. Yeah.
Well, and it's pouring gas on the fire, right? Like, you've got a fire going, and now the book is going to help get more leads. It's going to help get more sales, more referrals, and just going to help this thing move even faster. And one just quick tip I'd say is like, I love how specific you are with your hook. So I would probably in the subtitle really key in on the midlife sex coach for women piece, that it's specific to women and midlife. And I think getting real specific with your book, it's going to help you even bring even more people in your ecosystem because they're the right people, right? And so it's being specific. So in the same way that you did that on the publicity side of things, I would definitely do the same thing and get narrow and get specific on the book.
Fabulous. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, this has been awesome. It's been awesome, Dr. Sonia. Really, really appreciate this. Two final questions. First one, knowing what you know now, what would be your advice to the other, like the other Sonias out there, right? Which was gosh, it hasn't even been a year since we met. And so the person who's about to start on this journey of writing their book, or about to start on this journey of launching their online business, their group coaching program, their course, their PR speaking, things like that. What's your advice to those folks knowing what you know now?
Yeah, they just need to do it. Don't be afraid to do it. Recognize that it may not be easy, and it's not going to be a piece of cake, but it's going to be so worth doing it. I thank God for this year because it's made a difference in my life, but it's made a difference in so many other women's lives. And so, and their husbands. Actually, it's gotten to the point where the husbands are telling other husbands, dude, just have them take the course.
That's a good referral network.
Exactly.
And like, I'll pay for it. You've got to call Dr. Sonia. That's
exactly.
Awesome.
So yes,
Yeah.
go ahead and do it. And don't be afraid. Just step out. It doesn't have to be done perfectly. It doesn't have to be perfect in any way, but just get started and just continue and don't give up.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, this has been inspiring. Dr. Sonia, where can people go to find out more about you, what you're up to, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, the easiest place is my website, soniawritemd.com. And you can get all my information there, and you can find out about my course, and you can even sign up for my course, which starts on November 11th.
Boom. Awesome. Dr. Sonia, you're amazing. Thank you so much for coming in and teaching and just sharing your experience.
Thank you.